light's on.
It is.
Okay.
So is that light. That
It
big
is.
spot
The big
there.
one over there. All right. Good afternoon. I'm Mike,
All right, Kevin.
and we're the Becketts, and we're here to talk about tire wear and handling problems, and specifically about a new problem that's been building up in intensity over the last few years.
You say new.
Yeah, it is new.
It is new.
It's outside shoulder wear on the right front tire that is not associated with feathered wear.
Okay, now we've dealt with that 100 times before also.
Millions.
Because that's a loose component.
Well, it can be a loose component, but this particular problem is very intense outside shoulder wear. It's very dramatic. We've got a picture of it that we'll impose now so you can see what it looks like.
And it doesn't come with a bearing problem or kingpin problem
No.
that would have normally caused
The
it.
bearing problems are not there. The kingpin problem's not
And
there.
it's on the right side, it's not on the left side.
Tires got the inflation right? Yes. Okay.
And because it's happening on just one side, we're sure it's not the tire because they didn't build a right tire and a left tire.
Correct. All of those
You've been
excuses are
sorting
gone.
through all these problems.
So, the first time I saw tire wear similar to this was in 1990, when Mack brought out the CH model highway tractor. And when they brought it out, they wanted a maneuverable vehicle, so they brought it out with a 50-degree wheel cut instead of a 40-degree wheel cut, which means you can turn the steering tires 50 degrees away from straight ahead instead of 40. Makes the tire turn tighter, the truck turn tighter. When they did that, they started having kingpin problems on the right side. They had tie rod end joint problems on the right side, and they had major tire wear problems on the right side. Eventually, Mack figured out it was because they were turning 50 degrees. And when you went over 50 degrees, if this is your tie rod and this is your steering arm, and you get over so far, the steering arm gets in line with the tire arm, and the whole system wiggles because the tie rod end joint can't hold it solid.
So the tie rod, it really requires an angle with the archimedes.
It has to have a certain amount of angle
to function
Yeah,
properly.
when you lose the angle, it just becomes a wobble joint, like a double jointed elbow.
Because it is a wobble joint. If you've ever turned it,
It does wobble. All right. Well, Mack figured out what was going on. They reduced the turning angle to 40 degrees. They did a couple other things, and they solved the problem.
Yeah.
And then I didn't see the problem for 15 years.
Yeah.
And then Freightliner brought out the rack and pinion steering. And they wanted the rack and pinion for several reasons, which I won't go into, but they also wanted to get a 55-degree wheel cut. They didn't realize that the wheel cut was causing the tie rod end joint to do the same thing the Mack did back in 1990, and it was wobbling back and forth, and it tore up the rack, and it caused all kinds of tire wear, where the right front tire was coming off in 50 to 60,000 miles.
Yeah.
And the left front tires looked great. We figured out what was going on. The Freightliners dropped the rack,
They dropped it for a lot of reasons, not just because of us.
but that was it. And it's gone.
And then it disappeared, we thought.
And I quit worrying about it. Now, this problem has come up again, and in the last 3 weeks, I have been to 3 different fleets that are having the same basic tire wear problem. And for me, the measurements of alignment should match the tire wear.
Yep, that's the thing.
If you have too much,
see feathering, you know that there's an alignment issue.
yeah, if you have too much toe in, you should wear both tires, and they should be towed in. If you have too much toe out, you should wear both tires to go out. If the rear is wrong, it should be pushing you to the right. One tire's towed in, one tire's towed out.
Yeah.
If you combine a toe problem and a rear problem, if you have too much toe in plus a rear pushing you to the right, the left front tire, because it's towed in, is going right, it's happy, all the wear shows up on the right front tire, you lose the outside shoulder, but you have feathered wear.
Mm-hmm. And if you don't have feather wear, you still have wear on the outside shoulder.
Then what's causing it?
Bearing, kingpin, balance.
And they weren't-
It could be a tire.
Yeah, but not this consistent.
Not this consistent, because it's always on the right side.
Right. So in the last 3 weeks, I have been to fleets that had exactly this condition. The measurements didn't match the tire wear. The balance was fine. The tires were mounted okay. Everything was right, but the tire was still bad. And at the third fleet, all of a sudden, my little pea brain remembered the Mack. And then the Freightliner. So we jacked up this one truck that was having the problem. It was a 2012. And we turned it out to 40 degrees. And we wiggled the tire, as you're going to see in the illustration.
Wiggle it. The 40 degrees.
And it was reasonably tight. We turned it to 50 degrees, and it wobbled back and forth, as you're going to see in the video we're going to put
You
up
could
here.
feel that there was
You
nothing
could feel it and you
holding
could
it
see
steady.
it. Okay. So we have a problem. You can identify this problem in a couple of ways. One, on the steering systems we use today, they have an 18-to-1 gear ratio in the steering gearbox, which means if you turn the steering wheel 1/2 turn or 180 degrees, you get a 10-degree turn in your steering wheel tire.
18 to 1.
If you turn it 1 full turn, you get about 20-degree cut in the wheel. 2 full turns, 40 degrees. So most trucks will turn 2 turns and go about 40 degrees. And when we jack them up just the right side, leave the left side on the ground, and we turn it out to about 2 full turns, and we grab the tire and wiggle it, it's reasonably solid. Turn another 1/2 turn, clunk, 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 clunk. Now if you turn it all the way until it reaches the stop, where the spindle stop is against the axle, it'll feel solid again.
It will feel solid right there.
You got to take it just off of that stop and see how much play you got.
Because the stop is meeting the spindle, and that is stability.
So you have 2 ways to check it.
By the way, why it's not happening on the left side?
It doesn't happen on the left side because when you get out to the point where the tie rod end joint will be wiggling, the drag link and the steering gearbox are stabilizing it.
So they're preventing it from, they're the reason that all the tire is showing up on the right side.
Correct.
And if you happen to have a 55 wheel cut and you have 2 gearboxes,
You probably won't have the
you
problem.
probably won't see the tire wear.
Right.
So this is specifically, we're concerned about people that are seeing the tire wear.
Correct.
But we're also interested in people who are not seeing the tire wear.
Yes, because we don't know if there's a design of an axle that can turn 55 degrees without 2 steering gearboxes, and yet the wheel remains stable.
Because we know that they're available.
Well, we know they're all available in 55 degrees, but I don't know whether one's available that doesn't wobble.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
So,
And even if you have the wide track axle, maybe the stops are set to 40 degrees. We don't know.
yeah, I have
So
no
in
idea
your
what's going on.
specific vehicle,
Right.
even if you just could find out for us.
Well, the 2 tests are this. One is, does your steering wheel turn more than 2 turns?
Right.
If it's under 2 turns, the odds are you're not going to have this tire wear.
Right.
If it turns more than 2 turns, you're out into the 55, 50-degree wheel cut, and does it wobble, and do you have the tire wear problem? So you can judge it by the turn of the steering wheel, you can judge it by jacking up the right front tire while it's in a turn and see if it's flopping loose.
Right.
Those are your 2 checks. We need more data. We're going to be looking ourselves, but anybody who's got this kind of a problem can do the check themselves. It's very simple. If you have this problem, and you want to reduce the tire wear, the simplest solution is to adjust the steering stop on the axle. There should be an illustration showing that now. Adjust the steering stop out so that it hits the axle when you reach 2 turns,
Right.
instead of letting go the extra 1/2 turn. Now you're going to shorten up or increase your turning radius a little bit,
Right.
but you'll save some tires. Now, if the turning radius is more important to you than the tires, then leave it alone and go ahead and pay for tires.
Right.
If the tires are more important, then shorten it up. You don't necessarily have to do it on the left side. You can, because it's not having a tire wear. Yeah, so you could turn short left and long right, or whatever makes you happy. I don't care. It's your truck. The important thing is, if you're losing the right front outside edge, and you're not seeing feathered wear, you need to check this. Now, another point to point out. As this tire wear develops on the outside shoulder of your right front tire, the truck is going to develop a right pull, because that irregular wear in the right front tire will cause the truck to pull that way. The worse the wear gets, the worse the pull will be.
Now, can I ask you, why does it happen on the outside edge on a 55 wheel cut, not
Okay.
the inside?
In the front end of a truck, you have 2 settings that are built into the axle and into the leaf springs. One is kingpin inclination. Your kingpins don't stand straight up and down. They lean in 6.5 or 7 degrees. The second is caster. The bottom of the kingpin is pitched forward 3, 4, 6 degrees.
Right.
The combination of those 2 things cause the spindle to turn at a different angle depending on whether you're turning right or left.
Okay.
As you turn to the right side tire leans up on its outside edge, and the left tire stays almost perfectly vertical.
All right. Now,
When you turn the opposite direction, the left front tire leans up on its edge, and the right front stays vertical.
so it's always the outside edge that leans, that is sitting on its edge.
It's the
never
outside.
the inside edge.
It's the outside edge of the inside turning
The
tire.
inside turning tire, right?
Okay.
And it's never the inside edge of either tire.
Right. And once it's up on that outside edge and it starts wobbling back and forth, it just erases the shoulder.
Now, there's another question. As it turns, is one side or the other being lifted up?
Yes.
Which side is getting lifted?
The side you're turning into is lifting.
Okay, so not only are you on the edge, but you're actually picking up more weight.
Yes.
interesting that you would be seeing more tire wear that way.
Correct.
Okay.
That's about it, folks. This
All
is
right.
what we wanted to show you. If you have questions, comments, please contact us. If you have feedback on this, if you're finding this problem, we would like to know it so we can gather data on how we can help other people.
All right.
Thank you all.